Nestled atop the towering summit of Monte Titano sits a rather fairy tale San Marino, the 5th smallest country in the world. It's the world's oldest republic, and its full name, the Most Serene Republic of San Marino, may seem a little pretentious until you visit and see just how charming, wonderful, and indeed serene the country is. To clarify, it's only the capital, also called San Marino, that sits atop the mountain, but the country as a whole is just a mere 24 square miles, with a population of only 33,000, and is entirely landlocked by Italy. And it's a country teeming with quirks and oddities. For instance, crime here is almost non-existent, meaning that the police don't really have a lot to do. In 2011, the country had just a single prisoner, a man in his 30s who had his own gym and library, and even had his meals brought to him from a local restaurant, since it wasn't economically viable to run a canteen for just one inmate. Despite the luxury, he reportedly suffered from severe loneliness and boredom. Equally curious is the country's political system, which sees not one but two heads of state elected from opposing parties to ensure a balance of power. So these are the country's two heads of state, the captains regent as they're known, leaving office for the day. Together they serve for only 6 months, before a 3-day reflection period followed by a national holiday. It might seem bizarre, and well, okay, it is really quite bizarre, but it's a system directly derived from the Roman Republic. And while San Marino does have most of the things you'd expect of a larger country, they seem somewhat novel here. They have their own license plates, and San Marino is in fact the only country in the world to have more cars than people. And they have their own postal system too, with San Marinese stamps highly sought after by collectors and a major source of income for the tiny country. I managed to find this really cool sheet featuring many of the nation's most iconic buildings, including the stunning Basilica del Santo, the city's main church, and the Palazzo del Governo. And despite not being part of the EU, San Marino nonetheless uses the euro as its currency, and even has its own euro coins, again highly prized by collectors. On the subject of money, the country's sales tax is significantly less than that of surrounding Italy, and as such, countless shops selling perfumes, watches, and rather strangely replica guns jostle for tourist attention, as well as the attention of nearby Italians who frequently cross the border to enjoy the savings. And although there's no hard border between the two countries, you can still get your passport stamped for a small fee at the tourist office. How cool is that? But San Marino is so much more than just a collection of novelties. It's a place of unimaginable beauty. Its mountaintop location offers incredible views in every direction, and its winding streets and twisting stairways make it easy to get lost. But with such charm and wonder around every corner, that's definitely not a bad thing. But the crown jewel of San Marino is undoubtedly its 3 castles. These towers have become synonymous with the country. They're on the coat of arms and the flag, and depicted in sculptures and designs everywhere you look. As you approach the country on the drive-in, you can even make out the 3 castles standing ominously on the ridge of the mountain. The first tower, the Fortress of Guaita, is both the oldest and the closest to the main town, therefore making it the most visited. It was originally built in the 11th century, but was reconstructed and added to several times before it reached its final form in the 15th century. Visitors can go inside and climb a very steep staircase through a narrow hole into the top. It's easy to forget you're on the top of a mountain until you peer over the edge at the perilous drop below. To the other side, there's a spectacular view of the second castle, Sester Tower. This castle was built 200 years later in the 13th century and stands on the very highest peak of Monte Titano. It's functioned as a museum since the 1950s and displays all manner of weapons and armour, both modern and medieval. Once again you can climb to the top and see out all the way to the Italian seaside town of Rimini, where we'd spent the previous night. And then it was on to the third and final castle, Montalais Tower. Now this tower was built in the 14th century and is the smallest of the 3. It was built both to offer protection and as a prison, which explains why the only door is 7 meters off the ground, a common feature of prisons at the time. The tower is closed to the public, but you can walk right up to its base and it's worth a visit for the incredible woodland alone. By now it had gotten really quite cold, and the sun was just beginning to set. And as you can probably imagine, one of the perks of living atop a mountain is that you get the most extraordinary of sunsets. San Marino had taken me completely by surprise. I didn't expect this place to be anywhere near as charming or as utterly fascinating. From its bizarre customs and peculiar quirks, to its stark beauty and awe-inspiring scenery, San Marino may only be a tiny country, but it has a tremendous amount to offer.